buried in my dad's.
Hello, familiar faces. It's lovely to see all of you this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. Welcome to day 2 of Creative Professionals Exchange. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Holly Grant. I'm the Grants and Programming Director for Art Services. If you were with us yesterday, you know we had some incredible conversations around the impact of the arts and community, specifically how the arts create community and how they can uplift a community. So today we're really excited to spend the day sharing ideas and exploring creative ways that the arts industry can remain sustainable and relevant while supporting our entire community. When we were putting together this schedule, we were thinking of an opening session for today specifically that would kind of get us in the right state of mind to prepare for ideating, basically. So I know today's session said improv. I know a few of you are theater people, so this won't be scary, but if you're not, I promise it will be okay. Celine is here. She will guide you through it. It will be a safe and comfortable space that is free from judgment. The idea is more creative thinking. So this presentation is meant to be interactive. We encourage you, however, to remain muted while you're not speaking, but please leave your video on so we can see each other if you're comfortable. We will also be utilizing breakout rooms for this session to have smaller group conversations. So we hope you can interact with people. So now I'd like to pass it over to this morning's presenter, Celine Krzan.
Thank you, Holly. What a lovely intro. And thank you all for waking up this beautiful Saturday morning and spending your morning with me, being a little uncomfortable. As Holly said, today's session, I'm not going to be making you play a ton of theater games. It's not a traditional improv workshop as you would have thought. It's really focused on you guys as creative professionals and how you can use these tools and techniques in your day-to-day work life. So that's really what we're talking about today and where we're going to dive in. So we're going to do a quick warm up before we go and get started. And I'm going to share my screen. Let me pull this up. And this workshop, this warm up game is called Categories. Now, what I'm going to do, I am going to show you a series of images. All you have to do is use the chat feature. So you're just going to put your ideas into the chat box. What I'm going to ask you to do is I'll show you an image. I want you to think of 3 things that are associated with that image. So if I show you a place or a room, 3 things that you think could be in that room. If I show you a person, 3 things that you think of with that person. No judgment, like Holly said, just throw it out there. We're just going to get our brains moving and warmed up. As we go through, I'm going to be saying my ideas out loud just to challenge you and get you to think a little bit faster and more furious than me. But that's our objective. So right into the chat box. All right, let's get going. Let's dive in. Okay. My first one, okay, we're going to go on this image. I think of Prince Harry. I think of the Queen. I think of tea. I think of bad teeth, oddly. I oddly think of Hamilton and King George. Keep those ideas coming in the chat. I think of Meghan Markle. I wish she was still a famous British person, but I like she's living in California. Off topic. Keep the ideas coming. Okay, our next image, you got a little hint. Okay, we have, I think of lettuce, tomato, onion, hot dog buns. I think of it, we could probably have one today because it's so beautiful out, maybe a grill. I think of stealing a grill on Lincoln Parkway. That's a story for later. Next image. Okay, turkey. I think of Thanksgiving. I think of my family sadly talking about politics. I think of spilled red wine. I think of that movie where the turkey explodes. If someone knows that movie, please put it in the chat box for me. I can't think of it right now. Okay. I think of Shays. I think of downtown. I miss it. I think of Curtain Up. I think of Second Generation Theater Company doing their beautiful, as you can see at the Smith right there. I think of Expo. I think of creativity. I think of our city. Keep them coming. Keep a few more ideas. Amazing. Okay, I see 34 chats. I feel very proud. 35, 36. Awesome. Okay. So that was our nice quick warm up. So you can see what I really wanted you to do there was just start getting those ideas flowing, getting comfortable with sharing your ideas and being comfortable with really not being judged and just throwing ideas out there. So as performers, as many of you are and know, we all warm up, but it's also important when you're going into a situation where you are in a business meeting or being that creative professional that you are, that you take time to warm up and think and be creative and get those ideas flowing. So if it's something as like this, or if it's doing stretches before you're giving a presentation, use that framework, use that discipline in your day-to-day life. So that's just one thing I want to encourage you to do and just get ourselves ready for today. Now, what are we going to be doing in this session? So who am I? As Holly gave the wonderful intro, again, Celine Krzan. I like to brand myself as a passionate storyteller. I do have an undergraduate degree in performance. I moved more into the side of the business side of theater, which I love. I work at Shays, also starting our own theater company in Niagara Falls, so doing a bit of everything, and love this community, and I'm excited to be chatting with you guys here today, as well as doing trainings like this. Now, what are we going to be doing? As I said, it's a little different than your traditional improv workshop. So I'm not going to be making you do a ton of scenes. We're not going to be doing a ton of games, but what we are going to be doing is using the theories of improv and applying it to brainstorming and applying it to working in teams. So today's session is called Pitch the Producers. So what am I going to make you do and what are we doing today? So today's session, your objective, I'm going to separate you into smaller groups, and I'm going to ask you to pitch your best movie concept to a panel of producers. So we're going to do a little bit of freedom. I might be the panel of producers, who knows? But our objective, the way we're going to do this, I'm going to be showing you a framework. So here's our roadmap, and it's really something that I want you to be able to use and transition into your teams and into your workplace. So our first step, we're going to be generating ideas. So that's our first phase, and that's where we are right now. Then we're going to move into this refining and reflecting phase. So we're going to be using a little bit of convergent thinking. How do we still keep those improv tools rolling and working to do that? And then the final step is selling your pitch. We're going to be focusing on the first two today. So we might not get to the selling just with time constraints, but we're going to try and get there. So let's start with phase one and generating ideas. So before I separate you into groups, I'm going to walk through what our objective is. So our objective, again, we are looking to generate as many movie ideas as you can. But as you expect, in an improv workshop, I'm going to give you just some rules before we do that and before I put you into your groups. So our phase one rules. All ideas are to be encouraged. So what do I mean? I want everyone to be sharing. Don't judge yourself with any ideas, don't judge others, and really be open and honest and have a little bit of fun here. So don't self-audit, really jump in. If an idea can be expressed, it can be put on the list. Dream big, and I'm talking to artists, so I don't need to emphasize this as much as when I talk to business folks, but I really want you to think outside the box here, buy in, have a little fun, think about those movie ideas and those pitches of what could be interesting and fun for this audience. Again, on this phase, we're focusing on quantity, not quality of ideas. So I want the most ideas. I'm not looking here for the best ideas. So make sure you remember that as you go into your groups. And finally, I'm really looking for everyone to participate when we go into these breakout rooms. If you're normally someone who shares your ideas and are right bombastic, keep that, but maybe create a little bit more space for others to share. If you're someone who likes to stay on mute and just observe, I'm going to push you to step out of your comfort zone and just share some ideas as well. Okay, so before I separate you into groups, I'm just going to ask that you get out a sheet of paper and we're going to do a quick 1 minute brainstorm so we have some ideas going into the session. So get out that piece of paper. All you need to do, I'm going to give you 1 minute and just start generating any list of movie ideas that come to your head. I'm going to play a little jazz and we're going to get that going. We love a little jazz music in the morning. Remember, these ideas apply to yourself. No judgment, keep them flowing. Who cares if the idea has already been made? Just get it on a sheet of paper, get them rolling. We have about like 30 seconds left. Try and get just a few more ideas onto your paper so when you go into your team session, you're ready to go. About 10 seconds, get like 1 or 2 last ideas out there. Okay, this Mr. Sachs played us off. So, okay, so we have that sheet of ideas. I'm gonna just remind you of our phase 1 rules before we go into our breakout rooms. Remember, all ideas, encourage them, no creative boundaries, dream big, quantity over quality, and everyone must participate. Now you're gonna get about 5 minutes to do this. So I am gonna encourage you, choose somebody who can capture all of your ideas for your team, and think of the collaborative spirit. So if someone shares something that you love and you can build on it, or you can put a little spin to it, do that. So make sure you're sharing those ideas fast and furious and get them all on a sheet of paper, because we're gonna come back to it. Okay? Holly, are we good to get everybody into their breakout rooms? Thank you guys for letting me crash your rooms and hear a little bit of fun ideas. I'm gonna put David or Caitlin on the spot. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience? How did it feel having those rules in place as you were ideating?
I thought it was fine. I mean,
Yeah.
what are we supposed to? As far as, I mean, it was fast and furious.
Exactly. So give me a little bit about how it felt to collaborate, like virtually.
I mean, we went through each of our ideas and then kind of played off of each other to see if we could, you know, add another dimension to it, I guess. And
That's exactly what I was looking for. So that's great. So I was looking to have you guys add on to each other and have that attitude and that collaboration. Sometimes, especially, it's useful to set those ground rules as you're going into brainstorming sessions with a team. Because a lot of the times when we're going in to find a solution, we're like, okay, let me just find the best answer, jump right to it, and let's get going. But there are times where it really is useful to give ourselves permission to throw out bad ideas and to be ridiculous and to put on that yes and hat and get that attitude going. So we're just let's dive into phase 2, and we're just gonna debrief a little bit. And as you know, I have to talk a little bit about improv. So when I think of improv, as you can already see on the screen, I think of these guys. I might be dating myself, but I loved Whose Line Is It Anyways? I always laughed at Drew Carey. I laughed at the screen. And that's what we think about when we're on stage, right? We think about making people laugh, thinking in the moment, creating moments. But when we're thinking about really improv, and I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the first and most important rule of improv, is this rule of yes and. So when we're thinking about it on stage in a scene, and actually David touched on it perfectly when we're talking about it and thinking about it in a collaboration, creative, professional sense. But in a scene, here's the theory. So someone says to me on stage, oh, wow, it's so cold on the moon. When I'm using the idea of yes and in improv, I accept the reality of what they said. Okay, I'm cold and I'm on the moon. And then I build on it. I say, yeah, and I wish I hadn't forgotten my coat on the rocket ship. So you can see I accepted that reality. I built on it. I made it a little bit more interesting. And we're collaborating and creating on stage in the moment. Now, what I'd really like to highlight is we're all improvising all the time. David and Caitlin, when I called on you guys to share, you didn't expect it. You were improvising. You were sharing your ideas in the moment, et cetera, et cetera. So how I like to frame it in a sense of how I use it in my day-to-day life, improvising and having these tools is really where preparation meets timing. So you're prepared, but you're able to react, adapt, communicate in just a quicker way. And you're able to really bring the best of you and the best of that collaborative attitude to your team. So it's keeping that yes and mindset and keeping that ability to think quickly, being willing to be wrong, and being willing to step out and create and be a little bit silly. Now I'm gonna ask somebody, I think I'm gonna put Kelly on the spot now. Kelly, can we have a quick conversation? We're gonna plan a quick party. I'm going to start sharing ideas for said party, but I want you to respond to me and only start with saying no, but. So, and try and keep them statements, not questions. So what kind of party do you think we could plan? We're thinking of kids, maybe like a first birthday party.
Sorry, my button went fine. No, I don't have any 1-year-olds, so that won't work.
Okay, so we could also, you know what, let's adapt it. I just got a dog. So I'm thinking we could go to the Buffalo Barkery and maybe get some treats and have
I heard they just shut down, so we probably can't go there.
Oh, that's a good point. So no Buffalo Barkery, maybe a park.
It's very cold out today, Celine.
Okay, that's a good point, Kelly. It's a good point. Can we shift to that yes and? So I was thinking, instead of a park, what if we all came to my backyard and had a nice fire?
Yes, that's perfect. And I just bought marshmallows yesterday, so I'll bring them, and they're dog-friendly marshmallows, which is great.
I love marshmallows, and I actually have someone left graham crackers here from an event I had last week, so I already have that all set, so we're good to go.
Oh my gosh, amazing. And actually my sister makes chocolate, and you were going to invite her anyway, right? So
We love her. She just moved back.
She did. So exciting. She has 4 dogs. Can she bring them?
Please, we love 4 dogs. Okay, thank you, Kelly. Thank you for being my example here. That was lovely, as always. You can see already when someone says no but, and when you're in situations when you're ideating as a team with somebody, we all know that person, right? We know that person who has that no attitude, or we know that person, or we've sometimes been that person saying, no, we've tried that before, or but we haven't done this. Now, I'm not saying that that's not a useful tool, right? We all need to be someone who can shut ideas down and have critical thinking. But what I am saying is, when should you pull out that no? When should you be if you're in a brainstorming session, do you immediately need to say no? You can see when Kelly and I were having that conversation using that yes and attitude, we got a little bit further. We had things kind of spiraled and opened up in a beautiful way. I didn't have to work as hard. But when we were shutting me down with that no but attitude, I had to work really hard. You see, we pivoted a lot. We went to a birthday party, we went to a dog party, we went to a park, we went outside. So when you bring an attitude of yes, and when you bring an attitude of collaborating and building on ideas, you really can get further. And I want you to think about that in your professional settings of, when do I need to use no? Because that is appropriate, but also, when can I use yes? So let's go in a little bit into phase 2, because we have some time to talk a little bit about refining and reflecting. Now, I'm going to get a little nerdy here about just some learning models, so bear with me, but this is really important as teaching artists and as professionals to understand. So what we did in phase 1 was divergent thinking. So we were generating ideas, we were focusing on quantity, not quality, we were deferring judgment. So these are all really great tools that we have as improvisers. And once you play a bit more improv games, you get comfortable with being in those conversations and in that attitude, right? But that was where we were in the divergent thinking. We set those boundaries, we made those rules, so when we were walking in as teams, we knew what was expected of us. Now, let's move into our next phase. And that next phase is convergent thinking. So what we're going to be doing in this next section, we're going to be prioritizing ideas, using a bit more of that critical thinking attitude. So thinking about what actually makes sense, what is working. But we're going to work hard to really continue to use the yes and attitude, our improvising attitude, to support all voices. So we don't want to lose all the great progress we made with our team, getting that things going, creating that lack of judgment. We want to keep that attitude and that inspiration. But what we need to do is be a little bit more critical and prioritize ideas. So we're going to use this framework to do that. So this is just a tool that I love to have when I'm working with teams, or when I'm introducing this activity, because sometimes people are a little bit uncomfortable with doing structured brainstorming and using that improv mindset. So this is just something that you can use and steal at any time. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to do when you go back into your groups is choose your top 2 ideas. Now, we're not looking to be efficient. I don't want you to go to your top number 1 idea. I want you to pick out 2. And here's why. Here's how we're going to do it. So choose one of you in your group to be that facilitator. Do a quick round of voting between the 2 of you and see what ideas come out to the top. So run through that list quick. You can vote as many times as you want, but choose the ones that you think are really great and see where you guys align. So see that top bucket, what rises to the top of your top ideas, and try and choose 2 of those and build out some storyline ideas. So who is in the story? What is the story? When does it take place? Where and why is this exciting? So take some time to do that. And Holly's going to set up our breakout rooms in just a minute. I'm giving you, this is your 2-minute cue, Holly. So we're just going to reopen those rooms for you. And this is where we really want to use that convergent thinking, but keeping the yes and attitude. So when you're building out those story ideas, keep collaborating and building on each other's ideas. Do we have any questions before we move into our breakout rooms again? If no, Holly, I think we're good to go and reopen. Welcome back, friends. Welcome back. Do we remember all the W's? Caitlin and David and How. You're right. I didn't include How. Did I? Maybe. We'll never know. We'll just never know. David and Caitlin taking their time. Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay, so we only have 10 minutes left, so we're obviously not going to get to selling our pitch, but I am going to ask if you could share your 2 ideas with all of us. Tell us what you were working on. So I went to David and Caitlin last time, so Tessa and Kelly, can you just give us a little bit of insight into what your ideas you were working on?
Sure. Tessa, you want to interrupt me at any time? Okay. So 2 different ideas. I will lead with our strongest in the interest of time. Our strongest idea, we think, was a cruise ship pandemic wedding inspired by all of the people stuck on cruise ships and some real life experience. So the who is an engaged couple, could be he, she, he, we don't care, going on a cruise because they're headed to a destination wedding and probably their family is meeting them there. So say it's March 11th, 2020. Maybe March 10th. I don't know how much backstory we need, but they're going on a cruise and they're somewhere where you might find a lot of different cruise ships. So we're talking Bahamas, Caribbean, Cozumel, right? Not like super exclusive places. You're talking where humans from all walks of life might show up and turn it into a rom-com. Why? Because they're engaged, they're in love. And then why? Because there's a pandemic and they're going to get stuck on the ship and they might start to hate each other and we're not sure how it ends. So that's number 1. Tessa, you want to do number 2?
Beautiful.
Sure. Number 2 is a little like,
it needs a little more love.
yeah, like we were thinking, we had a few
Understood.
ideas.
Okay.
We were thinking like one, so like how theater never really comes back after the pandemic, and like the theaters are like shut down and like has like you can't get in, and then we were thinking it's sort of like a phantom, like in a way, I don't know, like one someone comes in and finally discovers the inside, and there could be like a cast of actors and actresses stuck in the theater like after,
like they never left and it's
Yeah.
been boarded up for 10 years and they've been in there like trying to keep theater alive, and it could go many different ways, but that one's also sounding like a horror flick.
Yeah. And if
they
we
both-
wanted a happy ending, we could also like have them like rebuild the theater after they discover it again. But yeah.
No WTFs allowed in brainstorming, David. Don't WTF us.
Yeah, David, we're not judging today. But really, that was beautiful, guys. Thank you, And question before we move on to David and Caitlin. What the fuck, Ann? That was, okay, Caitlin wins this round of the day. Like, she wins today. But back to the question. So Tessa, when you guys came up with those ideas, is that where you started? Did you start with those 2 ideas? Did you think those were already going to be the best ones? Tell me a little bit about that.
So I like my mind was on the pandemic. So that was mainly like my idea for a movie because I think that would be an interesting movie. And then Kelly had some like she was thinking about the pandemic too, and also like had some other ideas. So then we just started going back and forth and brainstorming together, which led to our 2 movie ideas.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to hand it over to David and Caitlin to give us their beautiful ideas. I'm ready for this.
You want to go with one of them? Which one you want to lead with?
Sure. I'll I'll start with the box idea.
Okay.
So our first idea was actually inspired by Celine jumping into our Zoom breakout room. And so the idea is that somebody is trapped inside of a Zoom box, and we're thinking we want it to be Morgan Freeman if possible. We think that would add a nice edge to it, depending on budget. And the concept is sort of, it made me think a little bit of Truman Show, of being trapped in this like alternate reality and not knowing how to get out. And David said that sort of the outside, if you tried to step out of the Zoom call, is sort of this like white nothingness that doesn't have any clear direction of how you actually escape this Zoom world. And we thought there could be this Yes, definitely also a horror film. It's gonna have to have some comedic edge, or else we're all just gonna cry through it.
It's not horror graphic though. It's like mental
Yeah.
scary. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a psychological thriller.
Psychological, right.
So it's going to be the how does he get out? And people will try to enter the waiting room, but they'll never actually fully enter the Zoom call. So, isolation. Oh yeah, that was the phrase that I liked. It was David called it virtual solitary confinement.
That is a tagline. That is a tagline for a movie.
And the other one is it's a movie about making a movie. It's a meta narrative that is about how much money is spent on movies, and we're going to try to show it as a low budget film, but we're actually going to spend the most money ever spent on a movie, and we're going to get every single actor and actress you could possibly think of, and it's going to be funded by the likes of Warren Buffett and all the millionaires, billionaires you can think of, and it's going to be an absolute flop. An absolute terrible movie, and yet a cult classic for the ages. What am I missing? It's filmed all over the world, including going to Mars with Elon Musk. It's just a ridiculous. Oh, there might probably some psychedelic scenes in there of like.
It's going to start touching on the environment. It's just like going to do way too much for way too little payout.
A little dystopian, but a little utopian. Yeah. So.
Okay, so I am just super impressed with all of the unexpected, strange, terrifying, beautiful ideas that you guys came up with, and in 45 minutes. So I think that just speaks. And without coffee, David, you said, look how, like, I have 2 movies planned and I haven't had my cup of coffee for the day. Like, kudos to all of you for jumping in. So thank you. I'm sharing a PDF. So this is just something that shares the framework. So you can, if you want to use this moving forward with your team, you're more than welcome to do that. Thank you for jumping in and playing around with me and using your yes and or what the fuck and attitude in the morning. You're lovely. And thank you. But any final thoughts that anyone wants to share before we wrap up? If not, go.
Thank you, Celine.
Kelly,
That was really fun.
Thank you, team.
I feel very energized, ready for the rest of the panel.
Fun
So,
on
And thank you, Holly, and everyone at AF.
Safe, enjoy. Yes, thank you guys. So enjoy. I'm giving you 3 minutes of your life back. So go enjoy it and enjoy the sun. Have fun with your dogs. Thank you.
Thank you.